Welcome back, everybody. Co-Creation Nation. I'm Lauren Hall. Thanks so much for listening. I've got my awesome co-host, Troy. How you doing?
Hey, Lauren,
Welcome.
I'm doing fine. I'm so happy to be here. We are back at it once again for another episode. And I don't know where, I mean, obviously we have listeners from all over this country, which is very humbling to us. But I know in North Carolina, where we are, the last couple of days, the weather has been absolutely fantastic. Spring is my second favorite season.
Hmm.
I'm really enjoying this weather.
What's the first?
Fall.
Okay. Like you can't leave me hanging there. Yeah, North Carolina, we get 4 seasons. Sometimes short, sometimes long, but yeah, we're really blessed. I love it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I've been enjoying the weather. I just got back from vacation, a week or so ago.
Yes.
I had to take some work with me, so it wasn't a full-on vacation. But it's nice to get away for a couple days and have a change of scenery and things like that, just for a few days. But I'm back, and we are back with another awesome episode here. So I'm super excited to get into this today.
Yeah, guys, and out there listening, so you might be thinking that me and Troy are like neighbors or something, or we're just hypnotists, like sharing an office. Which I don't know, maybe one day, right? We'll
It's
see.
possible.
We'll see. I mean, we're virtual. Troy's exclusively virtual. Um, so I guess that's what we have right here is our virtual office, anyways, and people are sort of joining in, and we have our community on Facebook where people can engage with us in real time. But Troy and I just met in person for sort of the first time a couple of weeks ago. So I saw his beautiful house. So glad that you got that vacation and kind of got a change of scenery like you were talking about so that we can revamp this new season because we've got each of us a flood of people just coming in. I don't know if hypnosis is getting more and more out on the mainstream or if people are just ready to get out of this COVID funk. Well, alternative therapies, I mean, they've been on the rise for probably a decade.
Yeah, and I think maybe more people are listening to our podcast, so maybe our message and our communication is getting out, which of course is the idea behind this whole podcast. Was we took the idea and we thought why isn't hypnosis a viable option? Why is it not mentioned? Why do people have to do the traditional therapy or the traditional models? And I'm not knocking those because
Yeah.
they do have their time and their place, right? But in our opinion, hypnosis should also be another option, should be another variable for someone if they want to come and try it out. And Lauren, you and I always joke about having the best seats in the house because we can see our clients transform right in front of us. And it's just understanding or having the client understand that they are the ones that are in control of this process. I think, and you and I were talking about this just off camera, but or off audio, I guess they should say on podcasts, right? But it's like one of those things where people believe that it's hypnosis is one of these things where I think most people believe it, that you come in, you close your eyes, and then you're not in control of the process, or you come in and you close your eyes and you fall asleep. And you're just not teaching your brain anything different. You're not teaching your brain a new habit. You're not learning anything. You're not allowing yourself to walk out of that session armed and knowing exactly what to do to change an unwanted or negative emotional state. And I
Yeah.
think that goes back a lot to the movies and the shows that people see on TV, because Hollywood makes it really exciting and this mysterious thing. And it's just it's one of these things where people normal everyday people, and like I said, we have the pleasure of seeing our clients every day making these changes
I
and
know.
transforming their lives and shifting, and it's such a wonderful experience to be a part of.
That's why we want to do the podcast to help people understand like real client stories, the science, the behind the scenes, the takeaway techniques. Because both you and I, we're practical people, and hypnosis, when it came into our lives, we're kind of like, I don't know, maybe, right? I mean, this is something that might work for other people, but maybe I'm a little skeptic, or can I be put under? But then when we recognize like this really works and there's no negative side effect, it's not a placebo. Then we thought, man, we need a mountaintop, like you'd said, right? And luckily, podcast technology exists, and we can do this cool like Zoom interface where we get to talk and then just send this message out to whoever's out there listening and engaging with us. that, yeah, it really does work. And it makes shockingly lasting and instant behavioral change. And I like to really go into the science of the tradition on hypnosis, because we're talking about, traditional methods. These have been traditional for just a couple of decades. When you go back, more and more throughout history and time, it doesn't matter what you're calling it. It all seems to be similar to what you and I understand is the hypnotic technique and process of fixation and suggestion. So we are in the Bible Belt of the United States, and so we can understand that there is a preconceived expectation. The stage shows, right, that clinical hypnosis is something where people learn to bark like a dog, not unless that's your goal, right? So public education is a piece of what we're doing, but today I really want, like we were talking about earlier before coming on camera, to give people that behind the scenes peek at what it is that we do in the office, outside of the session, after the session, so that people feel like, okay, yeah, I understand a little bit more about hypnosis. Because I think there's a lot of practitioners that are doing hypnosis or hypnosis techniques, and they just don't call it that. I mean, both you and I, in our business name, like, we use the word hypnosis because we want people to know, really this is what it is, because hypnosis is a powerful tool. You're already hypnotized, without even working with a professional. So use hypnosis to help yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So you and I both have a intake process, like a pre-consult that we do. But I think as we've talked, our process is a little bit different.
Yeah, and every practitioner is going to be different in terms of how they run their sessions and their intake process and things like that. For me, I deal with anxiety and stress, as you know, and normally I'm like the last resort for a lot of people. Now we're trying to change that, obviously, right? With with the podcast, and it's funny you mentioned that, because I feel like we couldn't find a mountain, so we created a podcast. So the podcast is kind of like our mountain to get the message out, right? But people come to me. I mean, I just had a conversation with someone yesterday who's had anxiety for a little over 10 years, right? So they've been dealing with for a decade, a little over a decade, and they're like, I've done this and this and this, and nothing has worked. And quite frankly, Troy, this is my last hope. Like, this is the last thing that I can possibly think about doing. And I get this line very, very, very frequently, very often, and it's just one of those things where somebody comes in, and I see that they really are wanting change,
Mm-hmm.
And I really want to I really want the person to understand that, what, the fact that you're here after 10 years or 15 years or 20 years, somewhere in you, there's a better way forward, because that living like this is just not for you. So it shows what great character you have, what great perseverance you have as an individual.
Yeah.
And I think that's first and foremost, because who knows if they've been told that, right? They know something's better out there. They just don't know where it is. And the thing about hypnosis, Lauren, for me, is that, with my clients, that solution is normally within themselves, but no one, allows them to access it. They don't know how to teach their brain a new habit. They don't know how to show their brain how to change an unwanted emotional state.
Yeah, their brain's stuck in the problem state. We
Yeah,
all have the
right,
resources inside, but
right.
the brain only focuses on one thing at a time, because you can only feel one way.
Yeah,
And usually we feel like, I want to fix this problem. So then it's the problem that gets illuminated. So
yes.
yeah, you're helping empower every person that you work with, even as soon as they call you for an intake call.
Right. And when I do the consultation calls for me, right, because I always schedule a consultation call first to
Mhm.
see if we'd be a good fit, to see, what they'd like to work on and change and things like this.
Well, hold on, let me ask, do they fill out any sort of like intake, or they just book
Yeah,
a
on my website. Yeah, on my website, there's a short application where they answer a few questions. Yeah.
Mhm.
But in that consultation call, what my main point that I want to get across to them is, these are the possibilities for you. We explain, we have a couple of questions that I like to ask, because I want them to know, I want to know what they would like to work on, what they would like to change.
Yes.
How would they feel having these changes? So there's specific questions like this, and it's funny because a lot of these questions that I ask people, they don't know, or they sometimes they have trouble understanding because they've been stuck in this, this anxious cycle for 5, 10, 15 years. And it's
Yeah,
like, I'll ask a question and I'll say, well, how do you rather, how would you want to feel instead? How would you rather feel instead? And it's sometimes difficult for people to really understand the magnitude of that question, because for 10 years or whatever it is, they've been stuck with the same cycle and feeling the same way.
I agree.
So it's for me, it's about understanding, or getting the person to understand the possibilities of what this process can involve, the possibilities for them moving forward, right? It's allowing them to understand and even embody in the consultation call the feeling of freedom, or the feeling of relief, or the feeling of happiness. And who are you now as a person when you have these feelings? Who are you as a person when you feel happy? Like, what kind of things can you do now in your life moving forward?
Yeah,
Right. So these are the types of questions. And then, of course, they make the decision as to whether or not they want to go forward
well, of
and schedule
course.
a first session.
And I think it's, anybody out there listening is probably hearing, wow, that sounds like a very subtle thing. I could do that on my own without having to hire a professional to say, what do I want, and et cetera. How's that going to make me feel? But it's having the support of really diving into the subconscious's story. Because what do you want? Yeah, we all want more and better. How is that going to make you feel good and happy? But those are general, abstract experiences. The subconscious is complex. It is multifaceted. It has layers of your experiences and your expectations. And I had thought that, Troy, that you did have a pre-form intake before they talk with you. And that's what I was confirming. And I know you've put strategy, because you've, over our relationship, partnership, you tell me how you're continuing to devour information and strategy and edit your process to really put those questions in the best science of helping a person start with where they are and consider what's possible, because most of us can't consider what's possible because we're only focused on what feels factual, and factual is a feeling, right? It's subjective. So probably like any change work process, it sounds like you're starting with awareness, and then you're moving into the hope. When I'm working with people for habit change, I liked what you said about, they have to really want it, because if they somewhat want it, if they just sort of want it, if they're just like, oh yeah, I heard about hypnosis on, I don't know, hopefully our podcast, and I want to see if it works. I want to see if you can hypnotize me, because I expect hypnosis is you having some power over me. You as an individual have power over your brain. Your brain is very powerful. Your brain affects your biology. And if you really want change, like on a level 10, on a 1 to 10 scale, not an 8, but a 10, if you really want it, then people like us can help to make those shifts at the subconscious neurological level. We've talked about the science in some past podcasts. Okay, so you get people to really hone in on what they want, then you support them with hope. Then you find out.
Yeah, I don't use the word hope. I use what's possible, right? Because I mean, they probably, I would assume that they've been given hope by something or someone before that, before I've spoken to them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But I mean, people have to understand too, when you talk about the control thing, it's more like, they're coming to me or they're coming to you because something in their life is out of control.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's they and most people they start, they research hypnosis and they're like, oh yeah, it's that thing where I'm not going to be in control. But the thing that maybe some people don't realize is that they're coming to me or coming to you because some part of their life is already out of control.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And they're wanting to get things back in order. They're wanting to get back in control of their brain. They want to just feel normal. Yeah, they want to feel neutral. They want to get back to feeling like themselves. They want to live their life on their own terms. So we kind of flip that a little bit, because I think some people may not realize, oh, I'm coming to you because there is something out of control in my life and I need help. I'm looking for guidance. Now, I know for you, Lauren, you also have a consult, correct?
Yeah, I do. I love what you just said. We've talked about our merch line, and somehow I'm thinking of some slogan about, do you want control of your mind? Then do hypnosis. Because, yeah, I think people absolutely have expected hypnosis means someone else steps in to make control. But I would say what has control over people until they step into their own driver's seats is the pattern. The brain wants to kind of take a snooze. And so it just makes all these assumptions and expectations. And I like too that you clarified the word hope. I mean, it's rare that I will use the word hope with people because that's similarly abstract. I just mean what I want to do in my consultation. Because like you, I've edited my process and I'm sure I'll continue editing it. And I almost tailor it specifically for who's coming in and the amount of, focus and participation that it seems like they're going to give me. So I don't want to have a barrier of people, stepping in and getting contact. So I'll have them fill out a little bit about what their goals are. But in that first conversation, to me, it is mostly about painting this picture of potential, what I'll call hope coaching. And it's kind of like, you've had this thing for a long time, perhaps. You don't really need to get into the depths of what this thing is. Your brain is familiar with your thing. My brain doesn't need to know what your brain knows. My brain just needs to hear a little bit from you about what you would imagine is going to be better after this big thing that you've been, stuck with is gone. And some people can't imagine because they've just been with it for so long. And so I might say, let's imagine somebody else who has this solution state that you want. So I do a little bit of that kind of reframe. And what I would say, we're making some shifts. And so they've already been primed. They've already, from what people tell me afterwards, they already start feeling better after that consultation. So then when we're doing, maybe a 90-minute session, which is a bit like conversational hypnosis, and then I will do some guided imagery and I'll give them some self-hypnosis, takeaway techniques. They have already shifted into stair-stepping their solutions. And this is what is so interesting about the subconscious is because consciously we have this all or nothing mindset. We think, oh, I have anxiety and it affects me every single day. And these are the ways that it affects me. And so I must be able to be hypnotized and that stops altogether like night and day. And that's possible. It can happen. It does happen. We talked about it in our client stories. We brought clients on who that's their story. But if that isn't the story that you experience with that specific goal, it doesn't mean you aren't getting success. We're multi-layered. We got a lot of complexity in our habits, in our emotion, in our context, and the things that we want in life. So when you shift somebody forward towards their better self, other things in life start showing up. They're focusing better, they're sleeping better, they feel more energized to be mindful of the way they take care of themselves. Their positive self-talk is just more supportive. They're cheerleading themselves. And it's, I don't know, let me get back on the way that I support people behind the scenes, because every session is so unique. As I try to outline, to teach other people how to do hypnosis, what to do, it's more that, here's the 24 strategies. And as a practitioner, I'll advise you not to make assumptions about people. Don't bring any sense of judgment. Don't confine them to your strategy. Just be present, actively listening so that you can give them the best tool to get them their results in the quickest way.
And one more thing about hope too, I would say is, there's a big difference between hope and empowerment. There's a big difference in terms of those two things. I mean, hope is some undefined thing. Empowerment is where someone actually realizes that they're the ones in control of this moving forward. And when someone has experiences and when they start seeing success and progress, now they have momentum. So one other thing that I do is, I always schedule a follow-up phone call a couple of days after every session. It's
Mhm.
normally right in the middle between, session A and session B, or session B and session C, or so forth, right? Because we want to see this momentum. We want to make sure that the individual is being, conscientious and diligent with, taking a couple of minutes every single day to condition in this new response. So for me, I'm a big proponent of teaching self-hypnosis, right? My role is, in all of this, as a teacher and instructor. So, you take the 5 or 10 minutes every single day to teach yourself this self-hypnosis, and you're teaching your brain, you know, this new thing. You're teaching your brain this new habit. You know, you're reorganizing your thoughts. You're reorganizing the pattern and this program that goes on in your brain. And so that's why I schedule these consults, these phone follow-ups, in between the sessions, because we want to see this momentum. Because once we get it, once we have the momentum, we can build on that momentum going into the next session. So again, if we have to change anything in real time, we can do that right there. These are, quick 10, 15-minute phone calls. We can amend anything. Sometimes I even teach a specific technique. But again, it's all about getting the momentum. And then the other thing that I do is I always send a review email. And I do that because I had one person one time, it's so funny. They came to the first session and they had like all these pens and this notebook, and they're ready to take all these notes. And I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
look, this is not what this is for. You're my job, my responsibility in this session is to teach and instruct. And everything that we cover here, I'm going to be sending you a review email, so you'll have it all for your reference. You know, and so I think doing these two things, right, with having the phone call in between the sessions and the review email, really allows someone to understand that that we're going to be with them every step of the way. And they know exactly what to do. And if they have any questions along the way, it's not like they're left to coming up with the answers on their own. And that's
Yeah.
always the tactic that I've taken in my practice. Do you do something like that or something similar?
Well, it's I don't do that now, but I had done that at times past.
Hmm.
And I love that you do that. I send a follow-up email with the audio recording, the guided imagery, and some videos and handouts uh, for exercises that they could do. Um, I find maybe a third of people never even open their follow-up email.
Hmm.
And so in the office, I want to take all the responsibility of supporting them in the best way that I can, so that if outside of the office, we can't align again to follow up, they've been supported in a way that makes that permanent shift.
Hmm.
I like that our strategies are different there. And I think, the audience out there can understand um, a dozen hypnotists will probably have a dozen different styles. And it doesn't mean that anyone is more right or wrong. It's just the practitioner is standing behind their process with confidence and integrity. I mean, we are, really hypnotism is a small industry. You've got to be very dedicated to go against the public education learning curve, because we don't get, hate about what we do, but we get a lot of curiosity, and I'll have people that come in, and sometimes the first things they'll say is, "I'm skeptic." And I'm like, okay, well, let's talk about it, and let's do the best we can to explain it, because we can't explain the brain.
There's always a difference between reading something in the book
Hmm.
or actually having the experience.
Yeah, experience for
So
sure.
somebody can watch a video on YouTube or read a book about hypnosis, and it's a fair thing to say, oh, okay, I'm gonna be skeptical, right? But if somebody comes in and actually experiences it, and they have this thing, and they have this shift, and they experience this change, and they can, now they're walking into their own empowerment, and things are changing in their life. That's quite a different animal, and people need to, in my opinion, people really need to experience that in order to really grasp the concept of how powerful they are as a person. Because it's not the hypnosis per se. You could say the hypnosis is the gateway, the hypnosis is the facilitator, but it's really the individual learning how powerful they really are as a person, and understanding, what true power really is for themselves.
This is cool, Troy, because it's, in a way, it's like you and I, we have a similar titled profession, But in this episode, we're really pointing out how some of our differences are. Like, you want them learning the empowerment, and I want them feeling the hope, because you had said hope and empowerment are so different, and they are different feelings, but I think they're the same genre of feeling. And this is where with clients, their words um, are the language that is going to dominate the conversation, because
Yeah.
you and I have our own context of words, just like every human does. If I say relaxing, what's relaxing to you might not be the image that I think about when I want to be in that state of relaxing, and that's okay. Neither is right or wrong. It's individualized. So I think it's really cool that we have um, different takes on this same process. We might take people even further behind our scenes to see what it is. And if you guys listening want to check out me or Troy and our businesses, you can go to the hypnosisinaction.com website and read our bios, and see how well we do like integrate together the strategies that we have, and then have some diversion in the different operations of hypnotism.
Well, that's why we work so well together, because we have similarities, but we also have differences, and I think
Yeah.
it's kind of a perfect fit, which gets me thinking. It's such a good fit that maybe we should start a podcast.
We should start a podcast. Um, well, how about, in addition to podcasting, which I think is great and fun, and hopefully people can follow our banner through the audio only, because you guys don't get to see us on Zoom. We do put some of our stuff on Zoom through Facebook on Co-Creation Nation. And the name of this mission, guys, Co-Creation Nation, is because you are co-creating your life. Whether you had been awake at the driver's seat or not, it's never too late. You are never stuck enough in whatever pattern is weighing you down that you can't break it and move forward and be empowered, and feel that heart sense of hopefulness and all of that. So stay tuned. Come in again. Thanks so much for listening with us. And yeah, thanks for peeking behind the scenes. Troy, I'll talk with you soon.
Thanks, Lauren, and thanks, co-creators. We'll see you next time.
Bye, Team Nation.